Did we order Chinese, Greek, and Italian food last night?
And hot dogs.
Ugh, last night's a blur.
Hey, what did we end up watching?
Was it Baby Monitor Sound of Fear or Co-ed Call Girl?
No, I'd remember if we'd rocked a spelling.
Hey, they should make a Lifetime movie out of that poor Tory spelling falling at Benihana. Teppanyaki, Grill of Death.
The show, to me, had a depth this time around that we always sort of had, but it was definitely a little more dramatic, I guess, than it was when we did it all those years ago.
Does it feel like a lifetime ago that you shot it? Does it feel like maybe it didn't even happen? Like it was just this...
The whole thing was so surreal. It continues to be surreal to get to revisit those characters and to get to finish it the way Amy and Dan wanted to finish it was really joyous, I have to say, for the most part. And I had an opportunity to be present, which sounds like very LA, but to be kind of there in a way that I had not before. Had a different realization how rare that character is, how rare that writing was, how rare to get to come back, you know, to do something that I had loved so much. So every day was very emotional.
It's just such a great opportunity to get to imagine where she's been, kind of get to play her as an adult, because she was always a little bit the adult in the relationship with her mother, but she was still a kid. So she had that duality, and now she, you know, is an adult technically, but in some ways she's kind of stunted. She's still a kid. So she's the same, but kind of flipped.
I'm feeling very lost these days. I have no job. I have no credit. I have no underwear.
What?
Could have been a contender.
You're still a contender.
You haven't watched it yet, Lauren, have you?
No.
Because when we spoke in December, you had not seen it, and you still are sticking to that.
I, as a rule, don't find it helpful to watch myself in anything. So I've now seen the original series, in part because I wrote about it and I had to watch it. But yeah, I will give it a good 10 years, I think, and then maybe I'll check in. Which I really like to go by kind of the experience and how it felt, and just as an actor, times when I have watched myself, it just makes me self-conscious. It doesn't help me do a better job.
Alexis, did you watch?
Yes.
What was it like watching it? Was there something, a moment, a scene that stood out for you?
I was so proud of, I think, what we were able to come together and do, the story that, you know, Amy and Dan wrote, just the fact that they always intended to end the series this way, and we got to do it. I mean, it was incredible.
For spoilery reasons, we weren't really able to talk about that final scene. I want to talk about that final scene now and your reaction to that being sort of potentially the end of the series.
I didn't know that was Amy's intention. I didn't know that the final 4 words were a thing. Some of my staying out of the, you know, internet or
She clearly wasn't reading TVLine.
I was not.
A weekly column. What do you think the 4 words are?
So it was a complete surprise to me. I thought it was perfect in terms of the storytelling of sort of bringing the characters full circle. But you know, I thought they were going to be like, goodbye, Stars Hollow, or I don't know, something more kind of tying it up with a bow. And but I mean, it took me a minute, but ultimately I loved it, and I found it really kind of perfect.
It certainly wasn't the ending I expected, and I told Amy that I hoped Rory would end on a high note after all her hard work. I wanted to see her succeed and you know, be thriving in these episodes, and so it was a hard thing for me to digest, and I was hoping that we would still see that she had lived, you know, an interesting life and had been fulfilled sort of up until this point when her grandfather dies and she comes back home.
Would you be interested in continuing this in some form?
Now it's become, you know, what can we do with this story that is satisfying, that is worth continuing, that will be, you know, gratifying to the people who care so much about it. I don't know if there's a need to do more. I would never want it to feel like we've overstayed our welcome. I'm not sure. That's sort of not for me to say, you know what I mean? But in terms of my experience, I couldn't love it more.